So I would say that out of any goal that I ever pursued in my life, whether it was like a body transformation, getting into college, getting your first job, out of any of these, the hardest and most disciplined building was when I actually started memorizing Quran. And even though that might sound a little bit intimidating or a little bit like off-putting, the realization I came to is that if you can get good at this skill, if you can actually like make it a habit, then you see everything else is essentially really easy. Because a little over a year ago, I really started memorizing Quran like seriously. I started getting with a teacher. I started actually having like the desire to memorize every single day and make like big progress on it. But at the same time, I was in college and like balancing multiple things. And I found that like my discipline, even though I thought I was a disciplined person, I actually wasn't at all. But a few months into this journey, my whole idea of what discipline is like dramatically changed. Because you see, when I started memorizing Quran, it was like super difficult. I didn't grow up like going to any of these madrasas. I had no idea how to even like read Arabic. I started from like ground zero. I hired a teacher and I told them, let's meet every weekend. Inshallah, we can like learn to read Arabic. And then from there, I'll try to extrapolate it. There was so many meetings I missed, so many like struggles I faced on the way of just memorizing like my first juz of the Quran. But even though things were difficult in the beginning, there was a specific point that I reached, and I can't really tell you exactly when this happened, but I started seeing like how people memorize the Quran, how people memorize like huge portions of the Quran. And I kind of started seeing like the path forward. And at that point, the difficulty for me that was required to memorize Quran went down dramatically. And it's because like the belief that I had was totally broken. Because I think a lot of people who don't memorize like that, or especially if you're in the beginning, you have this idea that people who memorize big portions of the Quran or complete the Quran, you have to like live in like a desert. You have to straight be like a serious student. Like you don't have a life, like you can't do anything normal and still memorize the Quran. And that belief is what stopped me from memorizing for like most of my life. But like I said, I don't know the exact point it happened, but once I like reached a few juz into my memorization, I realized like, oh, okay, so this is how people do it. It's not really like that intense. It's more so just about consistency. And even though we hear that advice so much, that it's all about consistency, you don't actually like really believe it until you first-handedly experience it. And you see, that honestly is what changed my entire mind about like what discipline is. Because the thing is, if something requires discipline every single day for a really long period of time, the likelihood that you're actually going to keep up with it is probably really low. You see, that idea of discipline is actually totally wrong in this scenario, because I didn't realize like memorizing in of itself is a skill. And as like any other skill, when you actually get good at a particular skill, it stops feeling with that same level of like difficulty. You actually start to look forward to doing that particular thing, in this case, memorizing. And if you're someone who's in the beginning, you probably can't relate to that. Like it seems like it's something that you're forcing yourself to do. But eventually you'll reach a point where when you actually see that you're kind of getting good at memorizing, you're making like solid progress in your memorization, you actually want to do it rather than viewing it something like, oh, I have to do it. Obviously, even now, there's some days where you might not feel like memorizing and you kind of have to force yourself to do it. But the level of like change, like in the beginning, if that was the majority of the time, but now so it changed to the point where it's definitely not like that anymore. And if you really just think about it, most of the things that you do right now are the things you're comfortable with. The things that you like to do, like your hobbies or whatever, are probably things you're comfortable with that you've been doing for a while, or things that you're actually good at. The favorite sport that you have that you might play or watch pretty often is probably just because like when you were a kid, you got good at it and then you felt like, oh, okay, I'm pretty good at this. I'm proficient at this skill. So you got into it even more. But if I were to give you like some hobby that you've never done before, or some sport that you've never played before, and you absolutely sucked at it, the likelihood is that you won't continue with it for like a long period of time. We tend to actually just do the things that we get like reinforced that we get good at. So essentially there's just like that bridge that you have to cross in the beginning where you might suck at memorizing. You might be kind of like me when I started, where I had no idea how to even read Arabic. I was totally like oblivious to memorizing Quran. I had no idea how to even go about it. But then after you kind of cross that first few months, you just force yourself to kind of push that barrel up the hill. Eventually, everything gets way easier. Once you kind of get into that rhythm of memorizing Quran, you're reading the Arabic way smoother, way faster. That's when you kind of feel, oh, okay, I'm actually like getting decent at this now. I don't actually know this for sure, but I honestly believe the vast majority of people who quit on their memorization journey probably quit at that beginning phase, because I couldn't see someone who's like already past that initial hurdle and kind of got in the process of memorizing. Those people, just from me talking to hundreds of people in our community, I've kind of learned those are the people who stick with it. So if you're someone who's still early in that Quran memorization, just know that right now is probably the hardest point that you'll ever be in. And when you understand that, your whole kind of view of discipline changes, because you realize it's not just something that you need to always carry out for the whole time to come. It's mainly just like a concentrated period in the beginning where, yes, you do have to be disciplined, I'm not gonna lie. But after that, the level of discipline required is much less. And this honestly like changed my whole mindset across any area of life. Like if I see someone who's doing something that's seemingly hard, but they seem to be doing it like consistently, you don't actually view that person as, oh, they're actually like better than me, or something's wrong with me. It's really just they leveled up that particular skill to them. So now it's like much more comfortable to them. And we all know there's tons of skills that you can level up throughout your entire life, but what better skill than Quran, especially if you're someone who's kind of like me, who started from zero, that like when you grow up, when you look back on your life, the things that you did when you were younger, you'll be super grateful, inshallah, that you actually dedicated time to not just learning the Quran, but memorizing big portions, inshallah, of it. But that specific mindset, that like framework is honestly what changed like how I view this whole Quran journey. But inshallah, if you're looking for a place where you can also revise Quran, where you can kind of get that accountability feeling, feel free to join our school community, inshallah. The link's in the description, and I'll see you inside. Assalamu alaikum.